accept Mason's proposal. So the students were protesting and really, really actively just took their education into their own hands and went out there and fought for it. And here's this guy, Till Hazel. He's a really important man, as I've mentioned. And he was very, very active during this time because he was a Harvard-educated lawyer. He was a real estate lawyer. He basically drafted all the proposals that went forth, and he was a huge influence. He worked very closely with the Board of Visitors. And this picture, this is from just a few years ago. This is Till Hazel at the opening of the Robinson Building on the Fairfax campus. And this is Clarence Robinson. This is John C. Wood, President Dykstra, and then back there is Till Hazel. And you can always tell Till Hazel because he has a buzz cut, and he had a buzz cut his entire life. You can always pick him out. He has that traditional buzz cut. We came across a picture recently. I'm like, I think that's Till Hazel, and they're like, nope, that's not his haircut. He had a buzz cut his whole life. So there's good old Till Hazel. So the good news was the proposal was accepted in 1979, and the ISL became the George Mason School of Law that we know today. And along with this came more than 11 acres of prime Arlington real estate that Mason now owned. And we bought it for $3 million, and then we sold half of it to the FDIC for $17 million. So we made some money on that deal. And that was pretty much the most compelling argument, I think, that the Board of Visitors put forth to the General Assembly, was that if we get this campus, we can sell a lot of the land, and we're going to make money, and we're going to help students. So that was part. It was a good real estate deal for everybody. And then all the students were, here's the law school. So all the students, they got degrees that were accredited by the ABA. So these are the 4 pictures we have in the collection of the law school from the early days. They're not the most exciting ones, but this is what it looks like. The cars are kind of cool. There more people are there for, and you'll notice it says Metro Campus. And then this one's my favorite. This is really, really tall guy. We thought that might be George Johnson, but it's not. And George Johnson was quoted as saying that this law school was really just a defining moment in the history of Mason in establishing the school as a credible state institution. And also during this time, I should add that we were able to confer doctoral degrees. So it happened at the same time. They kind of threw that in there. They're like, we want to have a law school and give doctorates. So we got all of this at one time. It was great. It was great for Mason. And then in 1980, the first class graduated, 260 students, and this was the same. It was like a couple months after they received accreditation from the ABA. It was just a couple months later. So at this time, the campus had a lot of different names. I think this was the Metro campus, it was the Virginia Square campus, it was the law school campus, it was the Arlington campus. So they kind of had a little identity crisis. So this next stage after the law school was firmly established the next stage was bringing other things here and expanding the campus. Here's Arlington just after, it's a little out of order, but there's not that many pictures of Arlington. We need more pictures of Arlington campus if anyone's hanging on to some old pictures and they want us to have them. This is right after this hall was built. So basically what was next after the law school? Next was, like I said, expand the campus, bring more programs out here. And there was a lot of committees. And these were the overarching themes of all the committees. This is what they wanted to do with this campus. They wanted to serve the students at Mason, but they also wanted to serve the Arlington community. That was always a major issue. Mason always included Arlington County representatives and citizens on all their boards and all their committees because they wanted to be good neighbors. That's what they said. They didn't want to just come in and take over. They wanted to be, respectful of the community and give something back to the community, offer professional education and programs, events, exhibits, libraries, stuff like that, which was very nice. So here are some of the joint committee. There was also the Friends of Arlington campus. There was a lot of different committees. And so they wanted to, the expansion plan was about building new buildings, but it was also about creating and bringing academic programs here that complemented law education. So they weren't going to bring the dance program here. That wouldn't really, I mean, maybe if you're creative, you could think of a way that could work together.
Yeah.
Or they weren't going to bring the nursing program here. They wanted to bring programs like public policy, international studies, stuff that would complement the law school in order to create a community for the students where they didn't feel like they were just kind of an afterthought to the Fairfax. Oh, that's extra space, we'll just have some classes over there. No, they wanted this to be a real campus with its own infrastructure, not just an offshoot of the Fairfax campus. And let's see what else I have here. Some more of the plans, very exciting stuff here. And next we have this guy, Manny. I was calling him Man, and it's actually Manny. Someone corrected me this morning. Good thing I practiced once with the presentation. Dean Manny was the dean of the law school during this time. He was really, really excited about all the possibilities that the law school presented to Arlington and to the students, the fact, the proximity to Washington, D.C., the proximity to federal courthouses, and just, there's tons of reports that he wrote where he says, Arlington, we're so great for you because all think about these lawyers that are going to move here and your property values are going to be amazing and you can rent out your spaces to law offices at exorbitant fees. Everyone's going to make money and you're going to be close to each other and the law. Yeah, so he was really, really, and he's really excited about the law and legal studies, definitely. And he was also instrumental in creating and kind of crafting the image of the academic community here and deciding what other programs were going to come here. All right. Let's see what next. Okay, so 1985, that's when the first non-law classes were taught here on campus. They weren't yet departments that moved here, they were just classes. But they were in graduate and undergraduate classes in economics, accounting, information technology, engineering, public administration, art and art history. But this was just to use the space and just to test out some things, but they weren't really departments. The first official program to relocate here and to be completely housed on the Arlington campus was the European Community Studies. And they were actually at the Quincy Street Station building that Mason rented in the interim while they were expanding and building buildings everywhere. And the European Community Studies later integrated into the International Institute. These are the only two brochures I can find for classes. But the International Institute, which was originally European Community Studies, and the International Institute's going to go through a lot of changes, as we'll see. So the International Institute was founded in 1991. They later became the Institute of Public Policy in 1997, and then the School of Public Policy in 2000. And Till Hazel, here he is again. He's really important. He endowed 2 faculty positions in this department because he was really, really serious about crafting just a legal academic community that addressed multiple facets of the law from multiple perspectives. So he really, really wanted the School of Public Policy here, so he gave them a lot of his money. And the School of Public Policy, as everyone knows, I mean, now we think of the Arlington campus, we think of the law school and the School of Public Policy. And this was the linchpin of the success here. Expansion continues on the Arlington campus, and I'm going to go back a little bit because the history is kind of all over the place. It doesn't follow necessarily a straight line, or at least that's not how I'm going to tell it in a straight line. So 1996, that's when the groundbreaking started on Phase 1, Hazel Hall, named for Till Hazel. And if we could just talk about Till Hazel a little bit more. I've been studying this intensely for the last couple of weeks, so I really feel like I've gotten to know George Johnson and Till Hazel really well. Mm-hmm. And Till Hazel, he's done a lot here, so he gets to have a building named after him because he was a Harvard-educated real estate lawyer, as I mentioned, BOV rector, and he brokered the real estate deal in Fairfax, on the Fairfax campus when Fairfax received an additional 450 plus acres to expand the Fairfax campus. He was the leader of that endeavor. And then he also was instrumental in the construction of the Beltway, in that he secured all the land rights to run the Beltway through Fairfax County. He endowed the professors in School of Public Policy, and he really brought George Johnson to Mason. He knew him from his business dealings, and this guy knows everybody. Till he's a mover and a shaker, and he saw something in George Johnson, and he recruited him and brought him, made a case for him at the Board of Visitors. And so we have Till Hazel to thank for a lot of the great things that we have here today. So here's phase 1, 1998, Hazel Hall, which in 2005 became John T. Hazel Hall, officially named after him. So just because of the Hazel family, he has a whole big family with lots of money and commitment to the university. So the law school moved here, the law library, the Mercatus Center, programs. In 1998, 1999, the programs that were in the Quincy building, the Quincy station, they moved to the original building. And I didn't put a picture of Truland Hall. I couldn't really find a good picture of Truland Hall. But we rented that space in 2000, and iCar moved there in 2004. And so here we are today in this beautiful building, which is phase 2, Founders Hall, home to this beautiful library, home to School of Public Policy, and it's Mercatus. I'm getting a lot of things. Is Mercatus here?
Is in this building.
Okay. Because I feel like that's in every building. Like I was looking at all these different sources, I'm like, it's just And then phase 3 has not yet started. I want to go back just for a second and talk about the library for a moment. The law library, the first collections were from the International School of Law. They helped kind of the foundation of building that original law library. They had these guys that were struggling running their own law school, but always having a library was always a really, really crucial feature of what the education that they wanted to offer. And the same goes here for the rest of the school, is to have a library that complemented and supported the academic mission of the new Arlington campus. That's beyond legal education. So that's about it. I just wanted to tell you too, these are the collections that we used to put this presentation together. A lot of GMU archives, as you can see. And then we have some outside collections. We have the Daniel Smith International School of Law collection, which is small but really, really interesting. If you're, he knows a lot about the law school before it was the law school, but it's still kind of the same law school. They didn't have that long of a history. So if you ever want to come to special collections and archives, I will happily pull out every box for you, and you can hang out in the reading room and learn more about the Arlington history, because I might have listed there too. And here's our website. Or our address. There we go. And does anyone have any questions? That's about it for me.